I think this is gonna work. Alright, anyway. Hello everybody, O'Reilly here. It's been a very long time since I've done, see, it's been like over a year, I think, since I've done a cutting video. Couldn't tell, I'm in a different backyard than a lot of my older cutting videos were at. So unfortunately I don't have my usual crappy setup in terms of, having my crappy setup. But I got my broadsword right here. This is the Honshu Broadsword that I got for about 200 bucks. I've had this for a while. I haven't really done any cutting with it, except for some of the branches in my backyard. I don't know how long this video is going to be because, as stated previously, I do this on a tablet, so that's generally why my voice sounds a lot different or what have you. So I got me milk carton right there. I got a jug right over here, and I am going to see how well this thing cuts. I can tell you right now, the blade is not as sharp as it could be. It's still fairly sharp. It's very nice. It still has the oil on it from when I first got it. And well, I've managed to cut jugs before with a fairly blunt blade, so let's see how we do. Oh yeah. See, and I haven't used a blade this long since my katana. And I don't know, it's just the handle itself is a lot more different, so I don't entirely know how well this is going to work. Especially considering it's been a while, might be a little bit out of practice. I say practice, but I've never actually trained with a sword in my life, and I don't count as, practicing in the backyard with, a couple of sticks with, cousins to qualify as that. Okay. Get myself a good foot there. Alright. I don't know how well this is going to work just because this is a bit. Well, that didn't work. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, that didn't. First try, already didn't work. So by the looks of it, all it did was, well, I mean, I'm not exactly rich, so I can't afford, better cutting materials. Skalgrim has his tatami mats and all that stuff. I don't have that. So unfortunately, I just generally use milk cartons, jugs, water bottles, Gatorade bottles, what have you. And yeah, I've had a few times where I actually was able to cut clean through. I don't know if it's just because how much water was filled into it, or just because the blade itself. It's probably because the blade is fairly hefty. When you got something fairly big and blunt, it tends not to cut all too well. Very awkward to hold. There's no weight behind it. Because I broke open the top part of it, so it didn't, like, it went in, but it did not actually. Come on. Flexible. Yeah, because I hadn't noticed that at the beginning how flexible it actually was. Well, I does believe that one is out of order. Hold on. Alright. Yeah, my videos tend not to be that entertaining. Over the years I've been kind of focused more on working, because unfortunately YouTube, before they changed, how many subscribers you had to have, I could have been making a little bit more money now, but when they changed it to 10,000 subscribers, that kind of boned me. So I have over 10,000 views on certain things. Or not on certain things, but altogether, it's over 10,000. But once they did that, it kind of messed me over. But yeah, I know my stuff's not the best. I'm pretty sure I've said that plenty of times in videos, but I try to make the best of what I can. Alright. don't know how well cutting this is going to do, because I don't want to cut directly into the barrel. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to do a simple thrust. See if I can do it. Actually, I don't know if this is heavier or lighter than my katana is. Yeah, that went through. If y'all can see that. It's squirting a little bit. Well, the thing is, I don't entirely know. Like I said, I'm not trained in this stuff. I don't know much about, best way to cut cut things with a sword, with a knife, to kind of show you a bit more of the cutting power. I do know a bit about sharpness of blade, so I can kind of tell you if it's sharp or not, but when it comes to this stuff, it's got a fairly pointy tip, so it would have gone through there. I'm assuming this could probably cut through quite a few things, or at least pierce through it. And now, see if I can't do a... It's not going to have much weight behind it now due to it being... I don't think I did nothing. Or I kind of hit it at an angle. Alright, let's do this again. Everything wet and wild, but I don't know if I'm actually cutting that thing. By the looks of it, no. Hey, this is pretty thick. This is a little bit thicker than most normal milk jugs, so that's probably a good reason as to why I can't cut the stupid thing. Oh, Jesus. Alright, well, come back. Alright. For my clan. Whoa. I don't know what happened. See if I can. I think what happened was that. See if I can do this. Come on. There we go. Alright. Don't know if you can really tell this all that well, but that's not. Didn't do a downward cut or anything. If you can tell right there, that's kind of where the first thrust went into. I think really what happened was that I hit it in the same spot one too many times, so that it actually tore the thing wide open fairly well. It's not too. I wouldn't say. I mean, cutting wise, I mean the carton was a lot thinner, so I thought it would have been able to get through a lot easier, but I guess not. The blade's not razor sharp, but it's not exactly dull. It's in that good little area to where you still have some pretty good use left in it. But as for that, I couldn't, I just couldn't really cut it. And I'm gonna try to give one explanation as to why. So when Skallagrim does his tatami mats, he tends to have them, have it, kind of circled around like a little shaft. That way it can hold still, so he can cut it, and it actually stays in place for the most part. I've seen a few of his videos, and sometimes he goes for a cut, and tatami matches to size. Ooh, that's a pretty cool sword, man. I'm gonna go with it, and it goes flying off. But when it comes to these, like when you're cutting milk cartons and jugs, it really it needs to have weight in it. Otherwise, it really doesn't matter how sharp it is for the most part. Unless it's just like that incredibly sharp to where it can cut through things without having to, without having the other thing have a bit of a resistance to it. But for this, I mean, it's got a decently sharp blade, but when it comes to it, it's not that sharp to where it can fully cut through them. That's why I really wanted to try doing some tatami mats, because with those, I could craft a little doodad to keep it in place, like Skallagrim does. That way I can do a bit better cutting tests, because for the most part, through all my videos, I just really cut milk cartons, jugs, and all that stuff. And sometimes, yeah, they're a little bit thicker, a little bit harder to cut through. And even if it isn't that, it also could just be my my technique, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not trained with this. I've never, I've gotten some pointers here and there from some people, but that's about it. So I wouldn't trust me on, you know, training the next of kin to defend the clan. But for the most part, I mean, it thrusts pretty freaking well. So, I mean, it's got a nice sharp tip to it, which I'd hope that would. I mean, that's one part of the good thing about this sword is that it's got a nice clean blade onto it. The only thing I would have to really say is just the edge was not as sharp as it could be. I'm not good at sharpening blades, so I wouldn't really trust myself to sharpen them. I would probably find somebody out there who can sharpen them for me. But beyond that, yeah, it's a pretty good little. I wouldn't, go out there smacking heavy trees with it because it bent a lot. Like it didn't stay bent, but it like moved around a lot more than it should have when I cut the jugs. Because I mean they're not stable. The only thing that got them is just water in them, so they're just filled with that. That's what's weighing them down. So I don't think it shouldn't give you that much resistance when you're cutting into it, to where it will, But for the most part, yeah, it's a nice little tool. I went to a family gathering, showed it around. It's got some nice weight to it. It's just a little awkward to hold. I think it's mostly because when I had my katana, the handle was a little bit thicker, and it didn't have a cross guard here. What I believe they called it, a suba. So really, it only had that. So it's a little weird to hold. Plus, I'm used to having a little bit more that, and just kind of the grip on it itself. Grip isn't bad, but the ridges right here, the ribs, I don't know, they just feel a little weird. The textile part here right there is kind of weird too, so when I try to get a good grip on there, I could feel it kind of like, this is a tight grip I'm using. So when I'm doing that, it really, like, I got imprints on my hand. I don't know if you could see that, but I got the imprints from the design on my hand, which happens when you're, squeezing something pretty tightly. But beyond that, it held together pretty well. I mean, I'm only cutting milk cartons, jugs. I don't really see how it would. I still don't know what. It feels loose. I can't tell what it is, because sometimes when you're. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, because I don't know if y'all can tell, but it's like right here. I can kind of shift this a little bit. So I don't know if it's just not put on there correctly, or if it's just not tight enough, but I can pretty much move the handle here, because there's always something shaking in there, but I can never tell why. But it held together, so I guess it really doesn't matter in the end. I'm not expecting to go to war anytime soon and have to use a sword, so for the most part, yeah, it worked out pretty well. I like it. It's a nice addition to my collection. They got a few more on there. I think next time, if I am going to get a broadsword, I'm going to get a more, traditional style, not without the kind of military aesthetic to it, which is really only on the handle. The scabbard itself doesn't really look like, oh, let's make it, tactical and all that stuff. Really just kind of a handle. I'd really prefer not a paracord wrap, but a more decent wrapping. That way it actually feels a little bit better. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, the bolt right here on the lower edge towards the pommel is it's not. No, maybe that's just how they cut the circle thing on there, but it doesn't look like it's in there correctly. Yeah. Anyways, hope you all had some enjoyment watching me cut things terribly. See y'all next time. Bye bye.